Welcome back to another episode of 40. No, that's the wrong intro. Welcome to another solo episode of the Greater WAAAGH. I am your host, Gersh1, and today, no Sound Alchemist once again, but don't worry, I will be answering the questions that you guys left last week, and then next week, the Sound Alchemist should be back. We just had some scheduling issues on the day that we normally record Greater WAAAGH episodes, but here we are to answer the questions of the 40K enthusiasts and those who are curious to get into the realm of the grim dark, well, not so grim dark, far future. Let's begin. This question comes from Yarshman. He asks, were Chaos Squats ever a thing in 40K? So, for all those that are new to 40K, squats are a race that existed back during the Rogue Trader era, so like the first edition of Warhammer 40K, and basically they were sci-fi dwarves, or like science space dwarves, basically. And they still exist within the lore of 40K. You could actually play as a squat in the Blackstone Fortress, and just like every other faction within the 40K universe, they are susceptible to chaos, from the Tyranids all the way to, humanity. The squats are also one of those individuals that did succumb. You can find some fan art. They look like mutated little dwarves and stuff like that. Is little dwarves redundant? I don't really know. But yeah, so they existed, and then the squats, the reason, I'm not 100% sure if they've changed this ever since the new Blackstone Fortress squat came out, but supposedly the lore is that the squat race was completely consumed by the Tyranids, and since then, there are very few squats scattered throughout the galaxy, not enough to make a full army, which is why they're not a faction, lore-wise. In reality, it's because they didn't sell. Even though I would definitely buy some space dwarves, 100%. Some kit bash models on Instagram and like on Facebook look amazing. You can definitely take some of the Age of Sigmar models and even convert them. So check that out. But yes, to answer the question, yes, there were Chaos Squats. Not anymore though. Or I mean, I'm pretty sure there could be. But yeah, good question. Next question comes from Jacob Wright. Yeah, Jacob Wright. How far could a Space Marine kick a Snotling? Super far. Because a Space Marine is capable of pulling back on his strength and actually kicking something so that he can get distance. Because if you were out in the field of battle and you're a Space Marine and you're going to kick something, especially something as squishy as a Snotling, and for all those that don't know, a Snotling is just a smaller version of a Gretchen. If you're going to kick that and you're a Space Marine, it's going to go... It's just going to explode in a gush of spores, and then you're going to inhale those spores, and you have little orcs or little squiggly beasts growing in your lungs, and then you die that way. That part I'm not sure if it's true, but anyways, yes, you would kick a Snotling and it explodes, but a Space Marine, if he wants to, yes, he can kick a Snotling pretty far, more than, 17. Next question comes from... This is going to be a long one. Let's see if I could read it. Dark Disciple, he asks, or he says, 16th time asking, what happened to the AI-controlled ships from the golden age of technology that went far into the future, then came back to the past during the age of the Imperium to warn humanity of the future, then got angry when the Imperium captured and killed its captain and learned how far humanity has regressed and swore it would never serve humans again? Did it simply fly away, never to see again, never to be seen again? Probably. If you ever read the Plato's, what's Plato's most famous work? Oh shit, come on. The one with in the cave, the allegory of the cave. I forget what the book is called, but it's basically like looking at shadows, and then finally a man sees what is creating those shadows, and he goes back to his friends who were living in the cave and says, like, no guys, like, it's actually like these animals that make these shadows. And then his friends are like, shut up, you don't know anything. That's basically what happened to these individuals. What happened to that guy is the same thing that happened to that far-flung, or that ship that was controlled by the Imperium that moved around. Excuse me while I cough. Sorry. But yeah, good thought-provoking question, I guess. This next question comes from Timothy Armstrong. He says, how would you fix the fact that Eldar and Dark Eldar are the least updated to their lore and models? We have to buy more. That would be the simple way. The simple way. If I had like a magic wand and I could just wave it, we would just buy more Eldar and Dark Eldar models. How would GW, because it's GW that creates all that stuff, like how would GW want to push more sales in that world? I guess you would update the lore and the models, but you wouldn't, because then a lot of people, I've seen that online a lot. They say like, okay, if this faction got updated, more people would buy it. It's not getting updated because nobody buys it. So it's one of those cyclical like things that just ends up producing shitty products. But in truth, what's happening is that GW went out. They gave us new lore for the Eldar in the form of a new freaking god with the Inari and Inyad, I think it's called. And what happened is we didn't buy it, and nothing came of it because we didn't buy it. So if I had a magic wand, I would just give people money and have them go buy Eldar stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry if it's not as profound as the previous question with the AI and the allegory of the cave, but yeah, just give people more money. This next question comes from Lord Devilfish. He asks, what really are souls in the 40K exactly? So souls are basically imprints in the immaterium, I would say. This isn't like canon. You have allusions to it here and there, especially when the Emperor talks about the Army of the Light and how, like, if you believe in the Emperor of Mankind, when you die, you get rescued by him. And like races like the Eldar who die and they don't have their not Infinity Stones, their stones. I forget what they're called, but basically, who don't have their stones, they usually get their souls gets consumed by Slanesh. So it is a physical thing within the Immaterium, or metaphysical, because the Immaterium is all crazy. But yeah, so it is something. It's an imprint in the Immaterium that interacts with your soul. The best way. I don't know how many of you guys are watching this, but like the Golden Compass series that's going on right now on HBO, they have kind of a similar thing with like the human and then the demon, and then when they separate the human and the demon, you basically just have an empty husk of a person, and that kind of explains what blanks are. Like if you have a blank who has no imprint in the Immaterium, you basically have like this soulless kind of like energy draining being that exists, and I mean, he's powerful against psychers, but for the most part, most humans and most people don't really like them. They think they're odd, they think they're weird. So it's a similar situation. Like if you don't have a soul, you don't have a presence in the Immaterium. Does that mean that all blanks don't have souls? Yes, they're just like gingers. Next question comes from Magic Eye. There has been times where the Imperium has teamed up with Xenos. Has there ever been a time when Xenos have teamed up with other Xenos to fight other threats? I thought you were taking that in a different direction. Yeah, there has been. So the Tau and the Eldar have joined forces to fight the Tyranids. The Orcs and the Eldar have gotten together to fight the Necrons. And I think the Tau have gotten together to kiss. That's about it. But yeah, So those situations do exist. I'll probably create a 40 facts video because that's a pretty good idea. You don't hear about it too much because for the most part, the lore of 40K is centered around the Imperium, or it's being told through the eyes of the Imperium. So obviously, if you have two factions siding with two Xenos factions siding with each other, you're not gonna like that if you are a human being. That's icky, gooey. This next question comes from Isaac Langdon. Who would win in an Uncharted... Oh, who would win? Who would win? All the Uncharted Catan working together or Chaos Undivided? Chaos Undivided, I talked about this the other day. Chaos Catans are weak against Chaos, and Chaos is nothing but immaterial presence. So, there you go. Next question comes from Logan Douglas Giles. What is the most advanced form of communication in the 40K universe? Clicking. That usually tends to be really popular amongst the High Lords. If not that, astropathic messages. That's pretty high tech. I mean, I guess there is a difficult. That is the difficult situation where, like, because the Imperium is so big and the galaxy is so big as well. The scientific way of saying, like, you know, planet Earth communicates with Fenris, even though Fenris is like light years away. In reality, that communication would be terribly delayed or extremely delayed, whereas like with telepathic messages, you don't have that. So you have a situation where the most advanced form of communication ends up being astropathic messages, and this basically just made up scenario. Eldar kind of have it too, but they use the webway, so it's the same thing. Instead of going through the Immaterium, you're going through your webway. The orcs don't communicate. They don't really call their parents because they don't have any. And then the Tau use technology, but that is why the Tau is kind of small too, and it's restricted. And there are many ethereal castes controlling the Tau Empire, not just like one major hub that communicates with all the other ones. So I hope that makes sense. This next question comes from Te Mandé a la Bird. What happens when a Gauze weapon hits a demon or a warp entity? It depends on the warp entity and the demon. If it's a demon that is like 100% like pristine Colombian demon, then he just gets destroyed and turns into nothingness. But if it's a human that was possessed and kind of was demonic, or some type of entity in that way, where there's still a physical presence there, and remember that this happens a lot because a lot of the times these unsanctioned psychers get taken over by the demon, and then the demon inhabits his body, mutates it however he wants it to be. And whatever the patron god decides. And then in that situation, when the Gauze weapon hits you, it just deteriorates everything, including the physical being that existed there. Think of it kind of like, for all those that don't know, Gauze weaponry basically just turns molecules into nothing, or turns matter into nothing. But because it's a demon, like, there is no matter. It's immaterial, like ether. But it still destroys it, because it has to change from ether into some type of solid to do damage, and that solid gets disintegrated. Does it form? Maybe. You could argue that, like, if you summon more demons on the tabletop, those are just the demons that are being carried over and like reforming, I guess. But yeah, it depends on how you want to look at it. This next question comes from Te Mandé a la Bird. How many Tau Fire Warriors would it take to take down a Custodes? Probably... that's a good question. A planet's worth? A planet's worth of Fire Warriors. But I could be biased. No, in reality, Fire Warriors are pretty strong. So if you had, like, on the tabletop, if you had an Adeptus Custodes fighting us... like one Adeptus Custodes fighting a squad of Fire Warriors. The Fire Warriors could take them out. The Custodes player would have to be unlucky, but that doesn't mean that it's not impossible. So, yeah. This next question comes from Hers Zinfact. How awesome is Khorne Berserker bacon. I don't really enjoy bacon as much as most people. I think because as you get older, you kind of grow out of that bacon phase. But corn flavored bacon would probably taste like iron. So I would say not that awesome. This next question comes from B33LZE6U6. Yeah. What does your Sororitas armor smell like? Fish? Definitely fish. I think we all know why. And thanks for that question. It's a good one. This next question comes from Robert Has Downs Jr. You've been challenged by a chaos-powered Bridget B and her Emperor-infused crude army. What army are y'all both bringing to battle, and what are the stakes? So if Bridget B, who is possessed by some chaos entity and is infused with the powers of the Emperor Recruit Army and her Emperor Infused Crude Army. Oh, okay. So I'm guessing like a bunch of Recruit warriors that have psychic abilities. What faction I would bring? Probably orcs, just because orcs are the best. And yeah. And what are the stakes? I wouldn't know the stakes. You guys got to tell me. If you guys think that if I were to fight Bridget B in another universe, what would the stakes be? Comment down below. I'm not really sure. And then this question comes from NonSync. Do you think the Mechanicus hides more goodies like the scrap code? Maybe a backdoor to the Imperial network? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Because you have to remember that the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Imperium of Man are two separate entities. So, even though there is an alliance, and the alliance goes back to the Unification Wars, at the end of the day, the Adeptus Mechanicus still tries to gain its independence. And you see that all the time when you have, like, Skitarii Legions fighting Space Marines, Skitarii Legions fighting Imperial Guardsmen, the capture of Archaeotech, the lying to the Imperium. So you'll have like a tech priest who says like, oh, look at this awesome weaponry. In reality, it's Xeno weaponry, and you're not supposed to have that because the Imperium said you're not supposed to have that. The Emperor said you wouldn't, or yeah, you couldn't handle it. But they're lying, and they're saying like, no, this is Archaeotech. This is like ancient tech. So there is bad blood between the two factions. So I would not be surprised if the Adeptus Mechanicus has some type of like kill switch to like, I don't know, send electric waves down into like the tunnels and explode certain things in Terra. I don't really know, but yeah, I'm pretty sure if war ever broke out, the Adeptus Mechanicus will be ready to flip switches and see things detonate. But yeah. This next question comes from the Mandela Bird again. Have y'all seen Color Out of Space? It seems very Zinchi to me. I have not. I don't really know what that is. Comment down below if you guys have seen it. I would love to know. Recently, I've been watching a lot of Netflix and Hulu and trying to like I want to get into like some type of good sci-fi. I was considering watching the HBO series on what is it called? Raised by Wolves, I think it's called. It seems interesting. It seems because I like that. I like that concept of like science versus religion to the extreme. So you basically have AI raising these children while it seems like this radical church is trying to protect them and save them, and like it's like this whole big thing. So I might get into that, but if you guys have any recommendations for good sci-fi or science fantasy, let me know what it is in the comment section below. I'm probably going to watch the Dune series, even though I know nothing about Dune. I was about to call it Zoom, if you guys remember the Zoom show for back in, I think it was PBS. But yeah. This next question comes from first name, last name. Is Connor McLeod a perpetual, and can there truly be only one? I don't know who that is. Yeah, I don't know who that is. There can't be one perpetual because the Emperor is a perpetual and so is Vulcan, so that's two. But yeah. This next question this would be the last question by TSL Frontman. Could Gretchen join the Tau? Regular orcs probably can't, but if a Gretchen got a job holding a real gun, they probably wouldn't need to grow either. Gretchen are intelligent, but they're still aggressive. So, like, if the Tau brought aboard a Gretchen, it would be a pain in the ass. It would be more realistic to think of a rogue trader, an Imperial rogue trader, bringing along like a little Gretchen, not even bodyguard, but like a little Gretchen thing to kick around. I don't know, just like a cool companion to have. But at the end of the day, that companion would try to kill that rogue trader. But yeah. Those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below, or for me. Well, for us, because it's going to be next week. Like I said, next week, the Sound Alchemist should be back. Everything should be as normal as a cucumber, because that's a saying that exists. And thanks so much for listening, guys. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.